Valentina is finally enthroned as the High Queen of La Plata, but as we have conquered, we've gradually reduced the amount of territory that our troops can pillage and forage in, and now we find ourselves on the brink of an economic catastrophe. But fortunately for us, our second son, King Enrique of Buenos Aires, has come forth to recommend to Queen Valentina one sage piece of advice. Argentinians are from boats. Alright, welcome back to We Play Games. I'm Walker, and here we are in CK3 After the End, in South America, playing the second part of our Secret History of the Gaucho campaign with High Queen Valentina. So High Queen Valentina's treasury really is having some trouble, but fortunately for us, King Enrique has recommended a path to action for us. I actually wrote a short story about it that I'll link down below in case you're interested. But what we're going to do here is we're going to raise some raiders. We're just going to pillage around here. We're going to get some starting capital so that way we can get some boats. And then we're going to go ahead and raise down Bahia. Bahia's army is much, much smaller than Sudeste's army. They are also currently losing control of a kingdom over here, and so this empire, especially right along this San Francisco River, this is very fertile territory for our troops to pillage, and we just have to get on some boats. So Argentinians are from boats in this episode. Oh no, and our least favorite son, High Chieftain Benjamin, a shy, craven, stubborn, irritable, conscientious scribe, has discovered that one of our children is actually an illegitimate child, so now has a strong blackmail hook on us. You're not supposed to have a favorite child when you have 11 kids, but ours is definitely Enrique, and our least favorite is definitely Benjamin. Our poor son, he's lost an arm. I don't know why he's coming here to pay homage to me. I think he should be staying at home and trying to keep this together over here. So our loot has finally arrived from that great raid into the Chaco. So now we have almost 1,000 gold. That gives us all the time in the world that we need to not only get some boats together, but send them up to Bahia, because we want to pillage all along this coast and all along this river and remind Brazil why Argentinians are from boats. But we're also going to use the wealth here to go ahead and visit the local orphanage. So I like to believe that Queen Valentina, she's improvident, but the way that manifests in world is that she has just an enormously expensive court where she just pays for war widows to, like work in her kitchen or as servants or whatever, because she wants to take care of her people. That's how that manifests. So she's going to just adopt some war orphans as well. 11 kids, that's not enough for High Queen Valentina. She actually really likes having kids, especially because, she sets them up as vassals, so she doesn't really have to raise them. They're fun. They're like somebody else's pet dogs. Alright, so we're going to just take all 3 kids with us, but one of them is really interesting. This character here, Hector. See, he'll become our ward. Alright, so we had to go put down a peasant rebellion really quickly, but we're right now outside Rio de Janeiro, besieging the Empire of Bahia's capital, and they just don't have enough troops to even disperse half of our army. So it looks like Enrique's plan is going to work, even though we did have to burn most of that war chest on mercs. The rebels were on the other side of the world. Oh, it looks like one of the local warlords within Bahia was willing to try to put up a fight, but they did not have the resources to stop us, and now their army is at the bottom of the ocean, or the river delta, I suppose. So the local warlords here in the Empire of Bahia actually are able to defend against half of the army moderately well. We've been able to defeat them pretty convincingly, but they've inflicted some damage on our armies. But I think what we're going to do is just bring the other stack up north and have them raid together. Alright, so Enrique the Younger, not the Enrique the Steward, but the other son, Enrique, has finally come of age and is a brilliant strategist now. Benjamin was murdered by a member of House Pires. This was the house that we had been nemesis with, but I guess they didn't give up the fight. Well, that's okay. We didn't really like him anyway, trying to blackmail us. And the first of High Queen Valentina's great raidings is complete. So we were actually able to not only sack Rio de Janeiro, but burn down most of the Bahia coast up to, but not including Salvador. This was a costly expedition because we lost a lot of troops in a couple of battles against local warlords, but that in turn got us a ton of prestige, and it's spreading the news throughout La Plata that Enrique's Enrique's plan is gonna work, that this is gonna be the long-term economic solution for the kingdom. It's not gonna be giving up on High Queen Valentina's goals. It's not gonna be trying to dissolve the kingdom so we have people to raid. It's gonna be raiding Brazil. And if we have to do it by going around Sudeste, we will, because holy crap, there's still the 20,000 troops right now. If we can do some pillaging in Bahia, get some money, then maybe we can hire some mercenaries and give Sudeste a run for their money. All right, well, we got the comfort of a friend. We're good friends with Marcelino, our bodyguard. He's a really big, bulky dude. Might not necessarily be the smartest guy in the universe, but he's a good friend. Oh, we can get a pet dog? Sure, High Queen Valentina will pick up a dog. She's 51. She's got some years left, but walking a dog will certainly help keep her healthy. Oh no, High Chieftain Lucio has finally passed. Boy, he was wounded for a very long time there, but he did not produce an heir. Oh, and his wife died in childbirth, that's why. Well, that is the end of that line. Oh no, and Adaliva's eldest son, Alfonso, actually bled to death. So we are currently looking down another bleeder after Adaliva, and then a dwarf. So Adaliva's line is just cursed for some reason. Nobody else is having all of these inbreeding problems, but he is. So for the second expedition, we're going to try to learn from the first. We're not going to split our armies up immensely. We're going to keep them kind of locally adjacent to each other, so that way, if there's a fight, they can support each other. Oh no! Marcelino, our good friend, died under mysterious circumstances. That's spooky. Hector, our shrewd son, is gonna looks like he's gonna turn out really well. Gregarious, trusting, humble. He could be a very, very capable backup heir in the event that something goes wrong with Enrique. Wow, and our first army is actually just full on loot now. So it's time for us to go back home. And this time, we didn't lose anything. The local superiority that we had over the Empire of Bahia scared the local warlords into not even bothering to raise their troops. Right on time, our troops are coming home because there is going to be another peasant rebellion, it looks like. There's a lot of those these days in the Kingdom of La Plata, but this one does look like it's going to be a little scarier. It's all of Uruguay trying to throw our sons out of power, but we're not going to stand for that. And now High Queen Valentina is up to 17 children and counting. And the royal army has finally arrived in Montevideo. And because they're bringing enormous amounts of loot, I can imagine that this was probably just like a giant soccer party, basically. Everyone going crazy that not only are they bringing back hundreds of gold, but they're also here to relieve the local castles from peasant rebels. Oh, we're gonna have a dream of King Antonio, our lost love from so many years ago. Yeah, sure. All right, the peasants have been defeated. And now we do have enough money in our coffers to clean up our borders a little bit. But before we put this new war chest that Enrique's plan has given us to work, it's time for us to form a hybrid culture for the Kingdom of La Plata. So we're going to form a hybrid culture with this Barriga Verde culture here. We're going to bring Sulista as our heritage, so that way we're part of the Brazilian heritage family. But we're going to keep speaking Rio Platanese. I think that that's pretty flavorful. Generally speaking, foreign conquerors would adopt cultural traits before they would give up their court languages, and that's what this will represent. But we're going to bring culture blending, horse lords, mystical ancestors, barbecues, Brazilian cosmopolitanism, and gaucho legacy with us. But we're going to go ahead and form this as the Argentine culture. I think that that's probably what we're making here. But regardless, this is going to let us learn a lot of the technologies of the people living in Osul. And by forming this hybrid culture, we should get a lot stronger vis-a-vis Sudeste. But critically, it also unlocks some huge military technologies for us. So we can just destroy all of our onagers because we're not going to need them, because the Pampiano have learned how to use mangonels. We've been able to successfully blitz through some areas on just pure onagers, but there are some really big fortifications, especially the metropolises, that have slowed our troops down. But now with mangonels online, that's no longer a concern, because these are not just going to be mangonels, they're going to be size 10. And we're also going to go ahead and add in an armored horseman unit here, just for fun. And we're going to go ahead and pin this Emperor Zelao down here in Sudeste, because if he dies, his son is not going to be the military commander that he is, and a lot of these units are going to bleed away, also due in the fact that he's going to be a new leader. So as soon as this Emperor dies, we might get an attack in. But given that both Queen Valentina and Zelao are in good health, I think we can use a grand raid here, and then just assume we'll get another one in 5 years, and attack King Dalton. Oh boy, we captured Dalton in the first battle. I mean, that's great, but we actually wanted to siege down some stuff first, so maybe we need to ransom you. Ooh, Hector has become very capable. Gray Eminence, so we'll probably set him up here. Yeah, we'll just enforce this Grand Raid. But now we definitely have enough money to found a Holy Order, and I would love to have a Holy Order just for protection's sake, in case somebody tries to declare a Holy War on us. But a Holy Order will also empower our vassals to declare holy wars, so hopefully they'll start cleaning up some of these borders on their own. But we're going to go ahead and attack the High Chieftain Chico here to try to take the last of the Kingdom of Mesopotamia for ourselves, because I think we are going to be just cleaning up here in Osul as much as we can and trying to fight Sudeste as quickly as we can. Alright, well, one battle and one siege later, and we've captured the rest of this kingdom here. But now we've picked up the ability to do forced vassalization, which is going to be really helpful because we're going to be fighting against a lot of little states here who have territories in multiple duchies. And instead of fighting like a bunch of individual wars, we're just going to fight one war against each of these guys to just vassalize them all at once. Alright, well, we managed to do this vassalization without them even putting their troops on the field. La Vital Felizardo, this our son-in-law with insane stats, is going to become our friend. That's awesome. And then we're going to go ahead and start setting up our adopted kids here as lords in Osul. I think that'll be fun. If any of them ends up being powerful enough to challenge our legitimate children, then good. It'll create more narrative. Oh my god, we can force vassalize all of Nova Rutania in one war? Awesome, let's do it. Oh, and Emperor Zilao has drank himself to death. Yeah, and Sudeste is way down on troops. They're on a 12k, and we're at 12k, and now we have armored horsemen. Alright, so after this war against Nova Rutania, we may be ready to attack Sudeste. As is their best chance, Nova Rutania is going to try to meet us on the field down here, but unfortunately for them, this is exactly the terrain that's good for us. Yep, and we have destroyed the armies of Nova Rutania and their allies. But yeah, our mangonels really are just making very, very short work of the fortresses here in Osul. They were designed primarily to repel the onagers of the nomads, but we've learned the technology of the Brazilians and can use it against them. With Nova Rutania defeated and Sudeste now in a state of civil war, it looks like the opportunity has arrived for us to raid them, but unfortunately our grand raid is still on cooldown, but that doesn't mean that we can't raid them the old-fashioned way. Sure, we can go to the orphanage again, and yeah, we'll take everybody with us. It looks like the Empire of Sudeste is too busy putting down these rebels to come deal with us, having now pillaged the entire coast of Sudeste all the way up, almost all the way to the Paraiba River. We are now going to send our troops back home, because I think we can go ahead and declare a grand raid after this. And boy, things look like an absolute mess down here in Sudeste. Enrique really is our favorite son. Let's go ahead and declare a grand raid here. If we win this, we'll get 1,000 gold from Sudeste. That, plus the money we got from just raiding them, should put us in a position to conquer the rest of Osul if High Queen Valentina can live long enough. And now we are going to prove that Argentinians really are from boats, because what we're going to do is we're going to skip around the barony that we're actually claiming here and just try to get as much of the kingdom of Sao Paulo as we can. And the Empire of Sudeste really is just laser focused on defeating their own rebels, and that means that they've actually allowed us to siege down Sao Paulo itself. Well, we hadn't really planned on taking a lot of territory in Sudeste, but I mean, if we can seize an entire kingdom in one war, I will not hate it. And while we're out here, we're also just going to go ahead and attack some of these rebels, just because we can. Gets us a little bit of prestige. And we're going to go ahead and reform the culture into family business. I think that given that, Queen Valentina is going to end up with, 30 children or whatever, that changing the culture to reflect the power of the woman herself on the culture makes sense. Yep, looks like indeed we will win this grand raid and seize the entire kingdom of Sao Paulo. And you know what? We got a really, really capable leader here in Hector, and I want to create some conflicts for our kids down the line, so let's go ahead and make Hector, our adopted son, just an insanely powerful vassal. And now with our armies having been victorious over Sudeste, we've dramatically reduced their strength here. I think we can go ahead and start cleaning up in Osul. Borja has been assassinated, but he was assassinated by none other than Duke Casimiro. We won't arrest him because our position with Borja was a little complicated. Now we need another husband. But you know what? I think what we're going to do here is we're just going to marry an incredibly high learning lowborn. We're going to basically bring Benedito here in as a specific advisor. We're going to have High King Benedito just work on patronage, so we get a 16 bonus to our learning from him. It's going to be incredible for our cultural development here. And just like that, we have taken this territory. The ability to just force vassalize people and then revoke their titles right away is going to make it very easy for us to grow our second lines here. And on that note, we're just going to go ahead and force vassalize King Dalton here. We captured King Dalton during the siege, so I guess we'll go ahead and just enforce demands. But unfortunately for Dalton, we did manage to just station our troops right outside their capital, siege it down right away, and capture him. All right, well, that was a pretty quick imprisonment. Now we've actually conquered enough of this kingdom here to make Marquis Donato into King Donato. Wow, La Plata is really just gonna blob all over Osul. Oh, and of course, because our husband actually died, his land was inherited by our sons by him, or at least nominally by him. So we've absorbed giant chunks of Campania here. Oh boy, Piratini has gotten weak enough that we can actually force vassalize them. Sure, let's do it. All right, there we go. So right at the end of Queen Valentina's reign, she's gonna have to fight off another great crusade for Mesopotamia. The Particularist Catholic Church is back. Oh, yes, indeed. We actually were able to capture the queen just by sieging down her capital. Adeliva has been imprisoned by Enrique. Well, I don't know what he did, but at least they're nominally still friends, so hopefully Adeliva does okay there. Alright, the crusade for Mesopotamia has finally been called. We should have more than enough resources to beat these guys. Not the least because Uruguay with their 1,000 troops are sucked into this war on our side, whether they wanted to be or not. Oh boy, but it looks like the particularists just did not get enough troops because we have more than double their military strength here. And it would actually appear as though our son-in-law here has managed to become a king. But unfortunately, his flicker of youth is starting to burn out. And Queen Valentina has defeated the Second Great Crusade for the Kingdom of Mesopotamia. But you know, our money is starting to run thin again, and that last war that we launched against Sudeste does seem to have dramatically destabilized them. We took away their capital, so that does make sense, but wow, their military strength is just not coming back, and they're just stuck in endless civil war here. So I think what we're gonna do is we're gonna go ahead and just raid as much of Brazil as we can. And having now pillaged and burned down Rio de Janeiro, our mint just looks much, much better. And that is gonna be just like the pattern here for Queen Valentina and her heirs, is they're gonna build up a giant fortune and then burn it all away. With our coffers full, we were in a position to probably do some more wars, but we want to do a grand raid against Bahia just to take some of these territories that they have down here inside of Osul, and that CB's still on cooldown. So Enrique is gonna suggest that we do one final pillage here, just to remind Bahia who's really in charge. It looks like Brazil is really disintegrating. They're at the point where their spin-off empires are starting to fall apart. Like Nordeste here is just like a tiny fraction of its power. So putting this back together is going to be pretty complicated, but it should be a lot of fun. Now this is exactly what Enrique had in mind. We are going to just destroy Brazil's ability to resist us and get an enormous amount of money for our family. Yeah, sure, we'll visit the orphanage yet again, and we'll take them all with us. Queen Valentina indeed is going to be the mother of the nation. We're at 26 children so far. Awesome. Another crusade for Mesopotamia? Oh, but this is going to be the animist Catholic Church this time. All right, cool. I'll tell you what, it's 5 more months until the crusade starts. That might be enough time for us to vassalize the Kingdom of Uruguay. Now, they would have been our allies, so the game was like, hey, are you sure you want to be attacking here? But Queen Valentina is tired of these guys just marching around in the background and laying pretension to this territory here, because we want to make our son into the King of Uruguay. And now we can go ahead and revoke the Kingdom of Uruguay, and we can make Marquis Enrique the Younger into the new King of Uruguay. So now we have King Enrique the Elder in the south in Buenos Aires and King Enrique the Younger in Uruguay. There's going to be some unintentional internal border war, just like as a result of the way we're expanding. But I think it'll be fun. It'll cause the vassals to fight each other in the future. The Animist Crusade has been declared, and oh my god, 24,000 troops. So who did they call in for this war? 19 allies, that's how they got there. Well, let's see how this war goes. All right, so it looks like most of our enemies are actually going to be coming up through La Plata, so maybe we need to reposition our troops down here. Oh no, Adaliva has indeed finally succumbed to his hemophilia. So now High Chieftain Salvador, the dwarf, is our new main heir to the High Kingdom of La Plata. It'll be interesting. I'm curious to see how he turns out. He does have incredibly high learning though, so he could be promising. Well, it would look like the Crusaders from Chile have taken the long way around and have sailed upriver all the way to Mesopotamia. They've come such a long way to die. Oh yeah, holy cow, we are having some huge skirmishes down here. We have rivals dying on the battlefield, Crusaders marching in from nowhere. Oh yes, that is exactly what we're looking for. The only unfortunate thing is that the land here literally can't support the size of our army anymore. So we have to like spread everybody out really, really thin just to get anywhere. And the Crusaders have taken advantage of that, and now they're sieging down Entre Rios instead of Corrientes. And there the Crusaders come. Excellent. And just like that, we have defeated yet another Catholic crusade from Mesopotamia. They really don't like that La Plata is here. We might get in on the other side of one of those great holy wars in a future episode. But High Queen Valentina's health is finally failing. She's down to poor, so although that doesn't mean that she's about to die, it means that her time is starting to run out. So I think what we're going to do here is we're going to actually attack Bahia, and we're going to do a grand raid just up here, but we're going to aim to siege down all of these 5 territories, because there's no reason for Bahia to have this territory all the way down here. This is like way outside their land. If we can win it, we'll cost them 800 gold, and the further down into debt that we can drive the powerful Brazilian lords, the better, because oh my god, Sudeste is just gone. They were quite the threat for quite some time, but taking Sao Paulo and destroying their capital looks like all we needed to do. Yeah, like I said, let's go ahead and do a grand raid against Bahia. Oh, just like that, Queen Valentina has actually died, and she died during a grand raid, just as her reign began. So Queen Valentina, the Kind of La Plata, has finally passed, and now that she has died, we have a new High King down in La Plata, High King Salvador. But we're gonna leave High King Salvador to try to hold on to his other grandmother's territory. Interesting that we had 2 grandparent successions in a row here in La Plata, but that means that High King Salvador could become a very powerful character if he can hold on to power. But we're going to move to another part of the map. I'm not sure if we're going to move down here and play with La Vital Felizardo. He is starting to get older, or if we want to play with one of his children. Maybe we play with Duchess Cayenne, or if we're going to play up in Venezuela. But I think we're going to leave Brazil to stew for one more generation of characters, because I want to see exactly how cursed their border can get before we step in and help them out. So yeah, that's the end of the secret history of the Gauchos here on We Play Games. That's Walker. Take care.